Welcome to Conspiracist. Our focus today is this hypothesis of a hidden phantom government. Basically, the idea that evidence for some kind of secret governing body has been deliberately concealed. And our goal here is really to objectively evaluate the reasoning and the evidence put forward for this idea. We want to keep it strictly professional.
Right, and this hypothesis immediately makes you think about, well, the basic relationship between governments and the people they govern, specifically transparency. There's research, for instance, looking at democratic governance, and it consistently shows a strong link between how transparent a government is and how much the public trusts its institutions. You see it across different places, openness in how decisions are made, how policies are carried out. That tends to build accountability, credibility.
Okay, so if we take that principle and apply it to this phantom government idea, the sheer level of secrecy needed, that intentional hiding, it would basically destroy public trust, wouldn't it? It wouldn't just be the usual political cynicism. It feels like it would fundamentally change the citizen-state relationship, create instability, maybe.
Absolutely. It would create a profound trust deficit. And you mentioned research. Some studies have even looked at how digital tools could potentially increase transparency to build trust. The whole concept of a phantom government, defined by its total lack of transparency, is the complete opposite of those trust-building mechanisms.
Yeah, it stands in stark contrast. Deliberately hiding a powerful entity It pulls the rug out from under the foundations of trust. Which leads us to think about secrecy itself. How would it work?
Exactly. In some online discussions about secret societies and hidden groups, this comes up. The idea that secrecy is a tool, partly for convenience, partly for control. It lets you operate without public debate, without resistance, maybe pursuing agendas people wouldn't even know about.
And keeping things secret isn't passive, right? It takes active effort.
Yeah.
Those same discussions sometimes mention strategies like having exit plans ready, creating deniability so actions can't be traced back.
Dissociation, rumor campaigns, misinformation.
Yes.
All plausible tactics.
If a phantom government were real, you'd expect these kinds of things to be essential, just to keep it hidden. And we know misinformation can be incredibly sophisticated now. Things highlighted by, say, cybersecurity agencies.
Right.
Like creating fake Angry So files, entire fake websites, even deepfakes or synthetic videos to muddy the waters or discredit people.
You can imagine how meticulously crafted online personas could push certain narratives or shut down dissent, all while looking like regular people talking.
And that kind of advanced disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
It could make even official government information seem untrustworthy, right? Which a hidden group could potentially exploit.
Definitely. It erodes the baseline of reliable information. Now, maybe we could look at history for a moment. There are historical examples of entities, even state-like entities, that existed without much recognition. If you look at the Americas, for example, over the past few centuries or other places, you find cases like the Suvadive Islands for a time, or Free Dadra and Nagar Haveli, the Republic of Timor back in '61, the Free Lebanon State, the Republic of Artsakh more recently. These groups function sometimes for years without broad international acceptance.
Okay, that's interesting. But these examples, they lacked international recognition, often because of things like disputed land or no diplomatic ties, right? Is the key difference here that a phantom government would need a kind of internal non-recognition, a deliberate blindness manufactured within the society it operates in?
I think that's exactly the distinction. The historical cases were often about external legitimacy on the world stage. This hypothesis posits something hidden inside existing, recognized states and their governments. That demands a much deeper, more sustained kind of internal secrecy and manipulation.
Right, operating within the system it's hidden from.
Precisely. And that brings us to concepts from, say, the study of psychological warfare and propaganda. Experts in that field emphasize things like objectivity, strategic communication. Effective messaging isn't about the sender's emotions. It's about understanding the target audience to get specific results.
Okay, so how would those ideas apply to hiding a phantom government? The psychological goal wouldn't be persuasion in the usual sense. It would be more about preventing belief, stopping people from even looking for evidence of this hidden structure.
Exactly. It's about opinion management or maybe belief prevention. You likely need a very consistent long-term strategy, perhaps flooding information channels with distractions, or maybe a more subtle approach, a calculated absence of certain information to encourage disbelief or just apathy.
But those psychological operations have limits, don't they? Theorists point this out. Things like the reach of media, needing reliable intelligence to make sure your message actually lands effectively.
Absolutely. Significant limitations. How would a secret government overcome those? How would it ensure its message or lack of message reaches everyone it needs to reliably without detection?
And what about coordination? Even established governments, say, running national propaganda efforts in wartime, find interagency coordination incredibly complex.
Right. The sources describing those efforts highlight that. So imagine a clandestine phantom government trying to coordinate its secret activities across different levels, different cells maybe, all while constantly guarding against leaks or infiltration. It seems exponentially harder.
It really does. The need for secrecy itself could cripple the coordination needed to maintain that secrecy. It's a kind of paradox.
And there's another point from those studies. Political goals might be hopes, like winning the war, but psychological goals, like creating a specific opinion, need concrete, sustained action. So what specific beliefs, or perhaps disbeliefs, would a phantom government need to actively cultivate in the population to stay hidden?
That's the core question, isn't it? What opinion landscape allows it to operate unseen? And think about the mechanics within a regular government. How states manage vast amounts of information, data systems, IT infrastructure.
Like any state's division of information systems, for example, they handle huge flows of data.
So how would a phantom government deal with that? Would it try to infiltrate those official systems? That seems incredibly risky, prone to detection.
Very risky. It would require deep, widespread compromise.
Or would it operate completely outside them? But wouldn't that also create strange gaps or inconsistencies that someone might notice? Anomalies in the data?
Both paths seem fraught with peril. Operating outside might leave detectable shadows or missing pieces in the official record.
This maybe connects to that idea of the phantom public, the argument some thinkers have made.
That the general public might often be somewhat apathetic or just doesn't have the bandwidth to fully grasp complex political systems.
Yeah. Could that kind of public disengagement or lack of deep understanding create the perfect environment? A space where something like a phantom government could operate simply because most people aren't looking closely enough.
It suggests a potential vulnerability, certainly. If the public's focus is limited or directed elsewhere, maybe a hidden layer could persist without triggering widespread alarm.
So it's not just active concealment, but maybe exploiting a sort of passive blindness.
It's a possibility raised by that line of thought. And it resonates, too, with more contemporary discussions about unelected power. Concerns about the accountability and legitimacy of independent agencies, the administrative state, unelected officials wielding significant influence.
Right, those are already complex issues.
And the idea of a phantom government takes that to an extreme. It would be the ultimate example of power completely removed from any democratic process or public accountability.
Totally unelected, totally unaccountable. It's a chilling extension of those existing concerns. One last area may be worth touching on. You see it a lot in fiction, in world-building discussions online. This recurring theme of powerful secret societies, hidden factions pulling the strings, things like, fictional groups like the 31st House or the Vril Society concepts.
Ah, yes. Those tropes are very common in fiction and online lore.
So while these are just stories, does the fact that this idea is so persistent in our fictions say anything? Does it tap into a real societal anxiety about hidden power that maybe makes the idea of a real phantom government seem more plausible to some, or could it even be used?
Fiction often reflects or exaggerates real-world anxieties. Power, control, hidden influence, these are perennial human concerns. The prevalence of secret groups and stories might show a fascination with these themes. But crucially, we have to keep a very clear line between fictional exploration and the kind of rigorous evidence-based look we're trying to take here at a real-world hypothesis.
Absolutely critical distinction. Fiction explores possibilities. We're evaluating a specific claim about reality based on reasoning and potential evidence. Okay, so let's try to bring this together. We've looked at the hypothesis of a hidden phantom government from several angles today. We considered how crucial transparency is for trust and how secrecy fundamentally undermines that.
Right. We talked about the potential tools and tactics of secrecy itself, the active measures needed for concealment, including modern disinformation.
We looked at historical examples of unrecognized states and why they might not be a perfect parallel.
And the challenges involved, drawing on ideas from psychological warfare, the difficulty of sustained, coordinated, secret manipulation.
We considered how such an entity might interact with official government information systems, the risks involved there.
And how the concept of a potentially disengaged public might create an environment where something like this could go unnoticed.
Plus, how it relates to broader existing concerns about unelected power and accountability. And we even touched on how these ideas echo in fiction.
Throughout this, our aim wasn't to decide if a phantom government exists, but really to objectively unpack the reasoning, the potential mechanisms, and the inherent difficulties involved in such a concept.
We've explored the massive challenges in maintaining that level of secrecy, the possible methods someone might try to use, and the wider societal factors that could play a role. Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.